So, guys, hi, welcome. My name is Darragh. I'm obviously going to be the one who's showing you around the system today. Um, I can see two people have joined now. I'm not sure how many other people are set to attend. I know we might have a few other people joining. Whatever the case may be, I will be this meeting is of course being recorded, and it'll be sent on to you anyway for your future references anyway. My name is Darragh. I've been working here around 4.5 years, be 5 years in November. Nourish, the company, has been in operation around 11 years. Um, Prior to October last year, Nourish was kind of primarily and only in, let's say, residential care and care homes and that kind of thing. And actually, since October, Nourish actually acquired some companies that went through some acquisitions, and there is now actually Nourish Community, which will be for geared towards care in the community. So dom care, supply agencies, really anyone sending people out to a place, usually in a client's home, but it can be anywhere really, sending a person to a place to do a thing, and you want to pay them for it. The system will most likely work for you. So there is a Q&A panel. So obviously you guys aren't connecting via microphone and things like that. You don't have the capacity to actually ask questions verbally, but there is a Q&A section on the actual Zoom session there. So feel free to drop any questions in at that point. I might not catch it straight away, but by the end, if I haven't seen them, I'll be scrolling through the questions anyway, and we can I'll address them if I haven't actually spotted them at the time of the question being asked. So what we're here today is just to have a look around the functionality within the system, and you should be able to see my screen there, and you should be able to see my client Mary. Now, Mary here, we can see, is a current client of mine. Mary's critical information is visible on this screen, and the critical information is actually gathered from completing regular assessments for Mary. Now, if we actually, up here at the top right, there's a little plus arrow, we can click to add a new assessment, where I can choose, should Mary's situation change, I can always start completing additional regular assessments for Mary. This list we've actually gathered from, speaking to healthcare professionals. It's a clinically proven list, really, of all the necessary assessments that you might need. Again, just to kind of go back to the point, should Mary's situation change, I can always take any of these assessments that we are completing on a regular basis. I can always take any of these, and I can archive any of these. Now, what I'm not going to do today is I'm not going to go through every single assessment here. What I want to do, though, is I want to show you one very important assessment, and it's called the Community Care Needs Assessment. You're usually going to be doing this for pretty much every single one of your clients. It'll be the initial assessment, and it's very kind of broad, open-ended questions, and you can fill in lots of details here regarding your patient or your client. And yeah, let me just run through this, and I can show you what actually happens once we've completed this community care needs assessment. So again, I'm not going to go through every single question here in granular detail, but we can just kind of skim through it, and I'll show you what happens then. So first of all, the funding and package type. So is this a private client through the local authority? How are they paying? That kind of thing. Then is there information regarding their home? So is there parking available? Is there a key safe? How do you gain access? Are there any concerns regarding the property whatsoever? Medical history. Excuse me. So is there any kind of past medical conditions, surgical procedures, medical devices, anything like that? And I want to just show you here as well that actually once we click yes, we can see another box is opened up asking us to detail and document this. Allergies and intolerances, pretty straightforward stuff here, really. Is there any kind of food or contact allergy, any skin, medication allergy, any sort of intolerance whatsoever? Legal status and consent. So is Mary in control of her own finances? Does she make decisions on her own? If not, who are, the powers of attorney, guardians, etc.? Is Mary currently under safeguarding? And then we can go on to the routines. So from morning to nighttime routines, if there's any kind of specific time scale to things that need to be done, or it could be something as simple as, let's say, how Mary likes her tea in the morning when she wakes up. Then the care and support requirements. What are the actual types of care? What does Mary need our help with? And then once we actually reach the bottom of this community care needs assessment, we're going to be brought to actions. And these actions are actually regular assessments that Nourish is telling us to complete based on the information that we've given on this initial assessment. So abilities assessment, communication assessment, clinical history, diet, nutrition, and allergies and intolerances. And if I actually scroll up to the very top, or not even to the very top, if I just scroll up here and we can say, yes, Mary is currently under safeguarding. Again, we can see it's opened up another line asking me to detail this. And then once I scroll down to the very bottom, again, back to our actions, we can see Nourish has then recommended me a brand new assessment to complete to document the safeguarding outcomes. And again, just to go back to Mary's page here, the regular assessments listed on the left-hand side. Now, I hope that makes sense. If not, of course, feel free to drop any questions. What I'm going to look at now is where we can actually create a care plan for Mary. Now, you're given a template of pages and folders. We can actually see that template here because I've got all that information here, really. So the pages are, the folders being on the left-hand side here, needs assessing, care plans, end of life. And we can also see them here on the middle of the screen. But then we also have pages within those folders. So we can choose to archive, much like the assessments, we can choose to archive any of these folders or pages. I can choose to totally customize and create my own. So up here at the top, I can choose to add a folder or a page, and I can fully customize this with a free type text box. Very same idea with the pages. I can select which folder this is going into and fully customize what I want, or select from a drop-down box. Now, even if you were to take on this template, you can just come in here and you can tweak this however you like. Now, every single page is going to follow the same format. And when I say format, I'm talking about it's going to have a title, an next review date, identified need, level of need, planned outcomes, how to achieve these outcomes, interactions, risks, and responsible people. Now, I can update this care plan. And like I said, maybe I just want to tweak the language slightly. We can change this to cleaning from accommodation, cleanliness, and comfort, or whatever we want to call this. The identified need is a free type text box to maintain a clean and tidy house. But as you can see, put in whatever we want, whatever is Mary's situation here. The level of need from NA to 4. The planned outcomes and how to achieve these outcomes are 2 more free type text boxes. Interactions can be added where I can actually click here on the plus arrow, or the plus icon, excuse me. I can add as many of these interactions as I need. And interactions will actually show up down here on the bottom of the care plan. Now, when I say on the bottom of the care plan, this is only on this manager section. Your staff who are actually out visiting Mary aren't going to be able to see this kind of history of the interactions. But these interactions can be linked with tasks. And then when those tasks are completed and etc. throughout the mobile app, we're going to, as managers, be able to, filter back by the dates and view any recorded data for that interaction. Of course, on this profile here, there's none. Now, when it comes to the actual interactions themselves, there is a long list. However, if there is somehow something here, or somehow we're missing something here, you can actually add to this yourself too. We can give it a description. We can add risks as well, and these risks are fully free type. So give it a title, give it some action. So for accommodation, cleanliness, and comfort, there might not be, huge risks involved in there might not be huge risks involved in this. However, unless someone has got bad allergies or 15 or 20 cats roaming around the house causing a bit of a hygiene risk, but maybe we're talking about eating and drinking here, we put a choking risk, that kind of thing. So fully customizable, whatever we like. We select a likelihood score from 1 to 5, and that is actually multiplied by the impact score, again 1 to 5, and then we're given a risk score based on that. The risk score is anything 12 or higher is going to be considered high risk. So we can see we put that up to we put it up to 4, meaning this is now 12, and we can see it is red, highlighting it to be a high risk. We can select if there are responsible people for this, of course, and I can also leave review notes and set the date for the next review date. Now, if I just back out of here and cancel these changes so I don't update poor Mary's care plan with my gibberish there, we can go back and we can see the overlay and overview of that care plan. Now, should an assessment go out of date? Should a care plan go out of date? That will be visible within the warnings. Now you can see here I actually have the warnings muted, but you're obviously not going to be doing that. But we can click into a warning. I can click into the actual care plan section that is up for review. And then we can actually see here it's brought me to that exact point in the care plan that is up for review right now. So that is how we actually create a care plan. Now, we've talked about care plans. We've talked about assessments. Anytime we update an assessment or a care plan, it will populate onto Mary's timeline. What also populates onto Mary's timeline is interactions that have happened on appointments. Those interactions being clocking in, recording tasks, or recording notes. Who can see the timeline is, of course, us, your management team, your administrators, but also Mary's circle of care are going to be able to see this too. Now, a circle of care can be anyone within Mary's life, given her consent, of course, that will be able to log in and view this information. You can see here I've got 5 family members listed, but it doesn't just have to be family members. I could categorize these. I could have family up at the top. I could have friends underneath, or healthcare professionals, or whatever the case may be. And like I said, they're going to be able to log in, not view anything other than Mary, not edit anything within her profile, but they're going to be able to log in and view the timeline. And like I said, the timeline is showing us updates to the care plans, the assessments, but it will also show interactions like we can see here. Appointment start, my carer here, Ken, clocking in. We can see the time, and we can see he left a note saying he arrived on time. We can then see 3 tasks that have been completed with the task descriptions as well. Daily notes, if Ken was to have left a note on that task, we'd see that there too. Again, those other 2 tasks, the very, very same idea. And then appointment end. My carer here, Ken, clocking out and leaving a note telling me that Mary asked him to leave early. So all of that, of course, visible to yourself, but it's also visible to Mary's circle of care. And one final thing I want to show you on this section is if we go to Mary's profile, I just want to show you here that we can actually link with GP Connect as well, which is so handy. You know, anytime that Mary will go to the GP, all that information will be stored and gathered here. GP Connect is free as well, so definitely worth looking into. I would make note of that if I were you, if you've not already looked into it. So from there, what I got to do now is I'm just going to click over onto this next screen where we do most of our workforce. Now, I would say a good 75%, maybe 80% of your day-to-day job is going to be done through this section of the system. Now, when we first log in, we're greeted with a dashboard. Now, this can be different from user to user. So if you have a care coordinator and a finance manager, they can have totally different information on this dashboard if needs be. I can X off anything I don't need, so you know, make it a bit less busy. I can move things around. Maybe I want my weekly stats to be a bit more front and center. And I can configure the dashboard up here at the top left by adding any category of information to this screen that I'd like to see. So notices, alerts, tasks, even upcoming birthdays we can see here. I'll click that, and then we can move this around. The next time I log in, this is going to be the dashboard that I'm greeted with. Now, pretty straightforward that really. Again, I know I'm kind of repeating myself here, but guys, feel free, jump in at any point, drop a question, even if it's something I've talked about 10 minutes ago. work away. From there, we click onto the admin section, which is essentially the settings page. Now, we come here when we want to populate the system with our own business language and terminology. Don't worry, I'm not going to go through every single category here. I'm not taking up your entire Friday. But what I am going to do is just click on a few of these. Because once we understand how some of these work, we're going to understand how the entire thing works. And throughout this demonstration, you're going to see me clicking on some drop-down boxes and check boxes and things like that. The vast majority of the information that we're going to see in those drop-down boxes and check boxes will be from this side here. So first of all, if I just go to General and click on Users, here's where I can actually create my administrator user profiles. I have got 3 users here, different usernames, different passwords, different roles, responsibilities, and so on. On the actual role section, all of these are fully customizable. So I've labeled all of these myself. We've assigned users to these roles. And then within those roles, we can actually set permissions. And the permissions are actually functions within the system itself. So just to give you an example, maybe we've got our care coordinator who's not able to do anything finance related. We will untick everything in the finance section. Your care coordinator is then going to be able to do anything else other than the finance related aspect of this system. And we can create as many users as we want. So I could create, even 5 or 10 different temporary administrators. If I know maybe my senior care workers can log in when I'm on annual leave or something like that, if a change the roster needs to happen, we can create as many of those users as I want with no additional fee. Back to the admin section again. What I want to do is just below carers, click onto the checklist. Now, there's a checklist for our clients and our carers. They both work exactly the same way. If there's any form of documentation or items at all that you need from your clients or your carers before you can work together, you can create them as checklist items. And again, this is just my carers checklist. So this is only going to be things like what we can see here: CV, DBS check, driver's license, and a right to work in the UK. This can be as long a list as you need it to be. We can click this green button, give it a title for whatever it might be, select if this is only completed after another item has been completed. We can choose if this is repeatable, and if it is, we can choose whether it be regular intervals, whether it be days, weeks, months, or years, or if it's something with a specific date, like a passport or a driver's license with an actual expiry date on it. If this is compulsory, we can tick there, and if actually we want to block from appointments, we can tick that final or that second box there. That'll mean that if I try to assign a carer to an appointment and their right to work in the UK or driver's license or any of these documents have been expired or not been handed in, the system is going to block that from being allowed to happen. Attach documents if we need, and make the upload of those documents mandatory. So I'm not going to be able to complete a checklist item without an attached document with that box ticked there. And then maybe this is only going to apply to selected carers or selected job titles, selected skills, regions, or statuses. And when I'm talking about statuses, that could be, a candidate. So an example I've got here for something that is only applicable to a candidate, would be a CV. So my workers who I know and I send out to appointments every day, I don't have a CV that I need to update for them at all. But people who maybe are applying to work for me, I'll need a CV from them. That kind of thing. And it works exactly the same as your client's checklist, identical, and it works very similar to the training. Now, the training is near identical. There's a few little differences, though, in that this is only for your carers. Of course, you're not training your clients. Any of these items can also be scheduled onto your staff's rota. So if you want them to attend a training event, you can actually create that training event, put it onto the roster, and they'll actually be able to see it on the mobile app if they've got a training at X time on X date. And then you can also pay your staff for attending these trainings. Setting them up is so similar. Give it a name. If this is mandatory for all staff, we can tick there. If this is something that needs to be refreshed, we can select that period. If this is, if we're paying our staff for this, whether it be their default rate, we tick this box at the bottom. Or if it's not their default rate, maybe in the finance section, we've created a training group and rate, which I'll show you later. We can actually select that here. And then when we're running our timesheets, the system will be able to see my carer attended a training at this point, and it's not going to pay them at their, it's not going to, run the timesheet and include the pay rate for as if they were doing a care job. They would just pay them at their training rate. And then, of course, here, if this is applicable to all roles or maybe specific roles, by the way, all of these I've created myself in this admin section too. So just two more things I want to show you here on the admin section, just before we move on to looking at some clients and some carers. But first of all, I want to show you here this skills and attributes section. Now, again, I know I sound like a broken record. I'm sorry, guys, but this is a fully customizable list. I've added all of these into the system myself. Things like cooking, things like driving, things like being a non-smoker, things like being a non-pet household, things like being a female carer. This could be, anything at all. I've got, manual handling, aid with medication, whatever it might be. Click this green button, customizable free type text box. Anything we want can go in there. My carers, then, this list is going to be visible on each of their profiles. And I just tick what applies to them and leave blank what does not apply to them. What I can also do is attach them to tasks. So this list right here is a list of my global tasks. These will usually apply to multiple, if not all of my clients. If I do have clients who have got very particular needs or special requirements, maybe there's a client that I will only do a specific task for them. They're the only client who gets that task. I can create that task purely on their profile as well. So this won't show up here. It won't show up anyone else's profile. But what we can do is just click the green button, give it a name, whatever it might be, select an icon, whatever it might be as well, give it a description. So if we want to give a few lines of text about how to do this, we can do that there as well. But actually, you'll be able to see here that all of mine don't actually have descriptions. And there's actually a very good reason for that. And that reason, if I click over onto my clients really quick, now I'm just going to skim right to the tasks. I'll be explaining what we saw there really quick in the future. But I just want to show you here that I've actually taken things like care for pets, things like cooking, and we've added them to Amy's profile. Amy's my client, and we can see care for pets, we can see cooking, but we can also see descriptions. So these have actually been personalized specific to Amy. And again, I can create a custom task purely just for her as well, using the exact same method. Now, let me jump back here where we can then choose if any skills or attributes are going to be required to be able to do this. I can select as many from that list that I've just created. I can select them all if I want to, or I can just leave it blank if there is no particular skill or attribute required for that one. By default, on the mobile app, task will appear. Your staff will be able to tick yes or no if that has been completed or not. You can also set it up that certain tasks, maybe certain very important tasks, if your staff tick no on it, you get notified in the office. As we can see here as well, we can also allow our carers to leave notes on this task. We can make that note mandatory as well. And we can choose, maybe it's only mandatory if let's say, for example, there's the task is completed or not, or both. Add this task to every client if we want, to every appointment if we want, and prevent it from being removed from appointments. Now, of course, this is all going to be very dependent on yourselves, your company, your clients' needs, and so on. Now, I'm going to call it there for the admin section, because really that's how it all works. Certain things might request a bit more detail, like we saw there with the checklist and the trainings. Certain things might just be a free type text box, you put it in, like we were talking about with the job titles and the skills. Either way, if we're looking to populate the system with our own business language and information, it's going to be here in the admin section. From there, we just click onto the carers. I can see a dashboard of my carer information here. All of this is going to be found in further detail within the reports. So I will just kind of breeze past it for now. though I do want to bring your attention to the fact that we can see the checklist and the training summary here. So anytime items have expired or are yet to be taken in the first place, we'll be able to see them here. And anytime anything is about to expire within 1 month, we'll also be able to see that there. This list of names here is a list of my carers. We click into Charlie here where we can see his beautiful photograph if we choose to upload that. I mean, all that kind of information, personal details, the location, Charlie's home, Charlie's picture, obviously, as we can see there. Charlie's travel method as well is all actually done here within Charlie's dashboard and personal information. The driving method actually, or the travel method is driving for Charlie here, and that's actually being taken into consideration when determining distance and travel time. Now, if I click back down here to Charlie's availability, I can set whether Charlie's going to be not available, possibly available, or available. Green means he's available. Amber means he's possibly available. And red means he's not available. I can also, as you can see here, select minimum and maximum amount of hours worked per week, as well as maximum evenings. Alternating weeks can also be selected here. So maybe, for example, Charlie needs every second weekend off. We can create that. 2 alternating weeks. We can see Charlie is available the first Saturday and Sunday, but we scroll to the second week and we can see that he's not available that weekend. So clicking back to Charlie's roster, we'll see that Charlie is available this weekend. And if I click on to next week, we can see the 18th and 19th, Charlie is back to being off. And then the week again after that, back to being working on the 25th and 26th. From there, I'll just click onto the checklist. Here's where we can see those items that we created in the admin section. That one that is not colored in, that means it's just not mandatory. I did not set that to be compulsory. The ones that are colored in are mandatory. Them being green means that they're up to date. If it was highlighted amber instead of green, that would mean it's about to expire within 1 month. And if it was red, it would mean it's either expired or had never been taken in the first place. We can always see the date that they were taken, when they need to be retaken, if so, if there's a refresh period. We can see who updated this. Darragh Connolly, that's me. And then we can download these documents again if we need to. So we use the Amazon web servers. All your data is going to be securely stored on the cloud. If you were to break your computer, lose all of your files and documents, for example, you would be able to log into this system on a brand new computer. You just use a web app, so Google Chrome, Safari, Firefox, whatever you like to use. You click on this blue link here, and it will just re-download to your system. And that works very, very similar to training. We can see here all of Charlie's trainings are up to date, but let's just imagine that one isn't. So I'll show you what it looks like to actually schedule one. Let's do this. We can also choose to add multiple attendees to this. So it'll also show me if my staff have actually taken this, or if it's, when it's repeatable or when it needs to be refreshed. Let's just say it's just Charlie here for today. Start date, start time, end date, end time. I believe it was, I think he was free 5:30 to, we'll just say 5:30 to, I don't think he was free to 7. We'll say 5:30 to 8. Apologies there. I just had a headset issue. Let me just double check something. Test, test. Hello. There we go. Okay, perfect, perfect. Sorry about that. But yes, just in case I cut out there, before it sounded like it did to me. Choose a start time, choose an end time, start date, end date. I can choose to add notes to this if I want. So bring a pen or something, whatever it might be. Click save. Now, had I had actually tried to book that to a time where Charlie was already working or unavailable, it would have flagged up with a warning. We go back to Charlie's roster. We can see Friday the 10th, there is now training set in there between 5:30 and 6 this evening. Now, it's actually a different color because you can color code all the appointments however you like. I personally have mine set to be assigned appointments to be blue, training events to be green. I actually have unassigned appointments to be set as red. So it's always a good idea to have these things, kind of bright, different colors that, is very easy to tell if something needs actioning, or what you're looking at when you just glance at the roster. And yes, we just mentioned training. So if I go back down here to skills and attributes, we can just tick or untick anything that we've created in that admin section. If I try to assign Charlie to an appointment that's requiring a female carer, the system will not allow me to do that. Well, actually, you can set it that if you, maybe the primary administrator, you want to override these warnings, but maybe, a lower down administrator or temporary administrator, whatever the case may be, that they cannot override these warnings, you can actually do that. But yeah, as default, it'll be set that these cannot be overridden. But you can change that, like I said. We can also set client and carer preferences. So just to give you an example here, maybe Charlie's got, cat allergies, and Alistair over here, maybe he's got about 20 or 30 cats roaming the house. We might want to set him to be a disfavored client. That way, if I try to assign Charlie to an appointment with Alistair here, the system, again, much like skills or attributes, will flag that as an alert. I can also do carer preferences. So not sure if you guys do. You might, if you ever double up carers to a single appointment, you can also set if there are preferred carers. So maybe Ronald, Doyle, Dee, and Liam get on really, really well with Charlie, and they always work great together. We can set them to be preferred. Or maybe, there was an awkward office romance here between Charlie and Maureen, and we want to separate them, and we want to be alerted if I accidentally, put them onto the same appointment together. I can do that too. Now, if I click up here onto the diary, we're going to be able to filter back and find something that's happened. Now, I can also create a diary entry there, but let me just filter back and we'll find something. This most recent one we can see is an accident. Now, the categories are fully configurable and customizable yourself in the admin section. Client-specific, carer-specific categories, whatever you need, they will be listed there. Amy had a fall. We can see our carer, Charlie, our client, Amy. Now, in each client profile, there's also a diary section, so I could have found this in Amy's profile too. The date that this occurred and who created this. Now, Darragh Connolly, that's me. I created this one. However, should Charlie have been on a real appointment with Amy and Amy had a fall, Charlie could have left this as a note, and those handover notes will automatically turn into a diary entry. He will be able to select the category. He will be able to leave a note. He will also be able to attach up to 5 images, which will then be visible here in the attached files. So when Amy fell, maybe she broke her glasses or, cut her knee or anything at all, Charlie could include images there. And then, like I said, it creates a diary entry. And us in the office management team, the administrators, we're going to be able to change visibility options. So maybe I want this restricted to everyone bar myself or bar a particular job title. Or maybe I want this visible on every single carer's mobile app who's visiting Amy, for the next 2 months. I can do that as well. We can also assign this to someone for further action, setting a priority, a status, and a deadline. And then anytime, as a manager, I can come in here and I can add new comments. We can see here at this time and date, I took Amy to the hospital. We can attach files again. So I could attach it, if we got, anything at all, like a prescription or anything like that, I could attach a photocopy of that, or a photocopy. I mean, in 2024, not sure how many people are doing that now, but we can, and then at the bottom, see any comments and revisions whatsoever. The thing being created, any edits, you can see here me updating and editing the priority type. So one final thing I want to show you here on Charlie is where we can actually book time off. Now, the time off is super, super customizable and versatile. So when I add a time off, I can choose to add a time off type. So we can see here, I've got lots of different types of time off. We've got sickness, and I've also got sickness. um, but yeah, anything at all, annual leave, let's say. We can choose the date and time. We can leave notes if we want to, and we can choose if this is using holidays. If it is, it's going to show how many holidays this user has allocated to them, how many they've used so far. You can choose if you're doing hours or days. You can choose to do, a 52-week average or the ACAS. You can even just choose to customize it from carer to carer as well. So I can even just come up here into Charlie's dashboard. I believe it's, oh no, I'm wrong. It's the financial information, and I can choose here specific to Charlie if I want that changed to hours, and I can even just change that number here just by ticking the box too. And that's pretty much it for what I wanted to show you here on the carer profile. Hopefully that all makes sense. Again, the broken record that I am, feel free to drop any questions into the chat. What I'm going to do then is click onto the clients section. Very, very similar here. If you understand the carers, you will very likely understand the carer or the clients, excuse me. Another very similar dashboard of information. And again, on the left-hand side, this list of names this time is a list of our clients. I'll click into Amy here, and we can see Amy's beautiful photograph if we choose to upload one. Again, we can, I'll actually just not even look at tasks because we already did talk about that, how we can take those global tasks and we can personalize them within Amy's profile. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to, instead of just looking at the roster here, I'm going to click up to Amy's schedule. And you might have noticed there, if you were looking at those appointments when I switched over, we've got the exact same appointments here on the schedule. Now, I can as well choose alternating weeks. So, maybe we don't look after Amy every second weekend because she's away with her family, or maybe, it could be, for example, maybe D here, the carer, is away every second weekend. So I need to actually just assign a different carer to the Saturday and Sunday morning appointments. Whatever the case may be, for any reason that you'll need to actually alternate this schedule, these weeks on the schedule, that's totally fine. It's going to populate your roster every single day. So 9 to 8:30, Monday to Friday, we can see appointments. Charlie Kelly here, that's who we were just looking at as well, by the way. 10 to 4:30, Saturday and Sunday. And this is set to populate every week. So if I go to my roster, again, same appointments. We'll click on to next week, same appointments. The week after that, same appointments. And let's even go comically far into the future. We'll say May 21st, 2029, and we can see we've got the same appointments there. Now, just so you know, it doesn't have to indefinitely be ongoing like I've got mine here. You can choose to set an expiry date on that schedule. So, maybe it's only going to be the case for the next 6 months. Then at 6 months, you don't have to remember to stop it. It'll just automatically expire. And if we are making changes to the future, by the way, click the today button and we're brought right back to today. Now, the great thing about this roster and the huge benefit, the kind of primary reason for it really, is the fact that we can make adjustments to today's appointment, let's say, this week's appointments, without affecting my schedule. So if we know that Frank here this evening is going to be late, I can just drag and drop this, confirm the change. It truly is as simple as that to make a change on the appointment. Just your left mouse button, swipe of the wrist. And then if I click onto next week, we're going to see that that Friday appointment has not been altered. We can see it's altered this week. And if I go to my schedule, we'll also see that that's not been altered. If I want an appointment to be altered from now on, let's say it's every Monday now, Frank is actually going to be late. I can come in here and make this change to this schedule. Go back to my roster. We'll see just Friday. Then I click onto next week and we'll see it's just Monday. So change to the schedule will affect all future rosters. Changes to the roster will just affect this week. And it's not just about changes either. I can actually just create appointments on the roster too. when creating an appointment on the roster or the schedule, it's going to be the very, very same idea and very same process. The only difference is going to be that you can, or that the schedule will be indefinitely ongoing, or, just ongoing generally, and the roster will be an ad hoc appointment. So let me show you what that looks like. New appointment. Excuse me. New appointment, and we can see the start and end time. We'll say maybe, sorry, excuse me. We'll say maybe between 6:30 and 7 here today, which is Friday, thank God. I can select a carer if I want to from this drop-down box, but there's a few easier ways to go about this rather than just selecting from a list of names. If I know someone who's free and happy, if I know the carer who's definitely going to be taking on that appointment, obviously that's the quickest way to do it. But before I do this, I'm just going to set some tasks and we'll save this appointment as an unassigned appointment. So whatever tasks need to be done here today, we'll just say care for pets and cooking. Why not? Click save. We can see that appointment has been added. And again, it's red because I've set it to be red. I've got my unassigned appointments red, my assigned appointments blue. Now, a few different ways we could go about this. I could click onto the manage screen, which I'll be going on shortly, but this manage screen is going to show me all of today. Look, I'll just click onto it right now, actually. Manage screen is showing me all of today. All of my care is listed on the left-hand side. All of their travel methods, excuse me. All of my carers' availability and all of my carers' appointments throughout the day. So I could assign it that way. Or I could actually just click into this appointment, click recommend, and get the system to tell me who I should assign. And what we can see here is very, very much the same information that we could see on that previous manage screen. Carers on the left-hand side, midnight to midnight, all of our carers' appointments throughout the day and their availability throughout the day. And now this system is telling me Doyle is the most suitable and Nick is the least suitable. So it goes top to bottom, most to least suitable. And I can actually click on this proposed appointment. The proposed appointment is the green one with the purple outline going through all of our carers' days. I can click on this to see the reasons as to why I'm being recommended Doyle. And it's going to be a number of different reasons. So, familiarity, how many times this carer's visited the client. Availability, if they're on any appointments at the time. If the carer and the client like each other. If the carer has the skills required to carry out the job. Distance, travel time, as well as hours requested and hours assigned. Now, you can tweak what the system determines to be the most important bit of information here. So I personally have got mine set. The most important things are going to be familiarity and availability. So 9 times out of 10, my system is going to recommend the most familiar carer to, and of course, someone who's available to that client's appointment. But for example, maybe you want it to be distance. You could set that, and then the system 9 times out of 10 will recommend the closest carer to that appointment. So this is all configurable to whatever your business needs are. We can click select on Doyle, click save. Simple as that. Now, before I go more in depth on that manage screen, I want to just talk a few more bits about Amy here. We'll talk about respite. Respite actually works nearly identical to time off. Add respite, add a respite type. Again, I've added all of these into the system myself. We can choose a start date and a start time. If there is an end date in sight, we can select that. If we don't know there's, if there's none in sight yet, we can just leave it indefinitely ongoing. What will happen then is that Amy's schedule will stop populating Amy's roster until this respite is over. So very, very similar to the time off, pretty straightforward to use. And one more thing I want to show you here before we start looking at the manage screen in more detail is just where we can actually add Amy's list of medication. So we can see just 2 types of medication listed here, but I can add pressing the green button. Give it a name, a dosage, strength, route, frequency, time gaps, and notes. All of that information is visible on the mobile app. And if you have set a time gap, for example, something like paracetamol with, I believe it's a 4-hour time gap, or 5-hour, excuse me. And then you had maybe someone go in at 9 o'clock and give Amy paracetamol. And then maybe you had someone go in at 10:30 or 11 or something like that. When they get to the medication section of their mobile app, the paracetamol that would still within that time gap would be entirely grayed out. They would not be able to interact with that type of medication. So yeah, to avoid overdosing your clients. We can choose a start date and a start time. And if needs be, if we're creating an antibiotic or, a batch of steroids or something like that for Amy, we can set an end date and an end time. I can scroll down and we can set the response. So is this just for information? Is this not mandatory or is this mandatory? And then we can set the care instructions as well. So I click on this drop down box and we see a list of instructions that I personally have added into this system myself, whether it be administered or maybe there's another one that we just prompt the client to take. This is going to be totally up to yourself and your client and your business. The outcomes as well, all fully customizable. So you could have 5 times as many outcomes as I have there if you want. You could have 10 times as many, or you could just have your staff being able to say, yes, it was administered, no, it wasn't administered, because your staff will be able to leave a note there as well. If you were wanting them to just say yes or no and then give some detail, you can do that as well. If you do have all of these outcomes, like I've got listed here, we can then choose maybe there's a particular medication type that I will only allow my staff to record administered, client refused, and no medication. Those will be the only 3 outcomes visible on that particular medication type for that client when the carer is looking at it on the mobile app. And as well as that, I can also choose to be alerted depending on what happens. So maybe we're creating insulin for Amy who's diabetic. I can choose to be alerted if she doesn't receive her insulin for any reason. So what I do, trigger the alert on this outcome for, of course, anything but administered, and I receive an alert. And again, all of this medication listed in the mobile app. Your staff can interact with that, leave notes, and then that is going to populate into your MAR sheets in the report section, which we'll be talking about in a little while. So I'm going to now move on from the clients. Again, any questions at all, feel free to drop them into the chat about the clients, about the carers, about Amy or Charlie, or about anything at all that we've kind of went over and that you want me to kind of repeat or go over. Maybe I spoke a little bit too fast. I know it's the curse of the Irish. We do speak a little bit too fast sometimes. So then if I click onto the manage screen again, we can once more see all of that information for today. Something that I haven't talked about yet that is on this screen are these carer runs. And when we have a carer who's going from one appointment to the next, we can group them up together into a run. Now, they have a few different uses. You might not use all of them, which is perfectly fine. But let me just run through them. So one use is that if you're wanting to treat a run as if it were a shift when you're paying your staff, you can do that. So let's say between 9 and 12, I want to just pay Charlie hourly instead of breaking it up in between the appointments here. I can do that. Now, of course, you don't have to do that. Another very beneficial use is the fact that you can use it when calculating mileage or travel time. So maybe you only want to pay for mileage or travel time within a run. That's possible as well. Now, you don't have to use either of those methods, but something I feel you definitely will use, especially for care in the community, is allocating unassigned appointments. So if you had a carer who called in sick or booked a holiday or whatever the case may be, all of their appointments would just automatically go to unassigned. We can see them up here at the top, these 4 appointments all within a run. What I can do is I can go one by one into each appointment, select from the drop-down box or get a recommended carer, just like I did for Amy. I can also click on the run itself and select from the drop-down box or get a recommended carer for the entirety of the run if I wish. Or I can just pick it up, drag it down, drop it onto Dennis who's free. if there's any issues whatsoever. So if Dennis is, off sick, unavailable, not liked, doesn't have the skills, checklist items out of date, anything that he should, any reasons why he shouldn't be taking on these appointments, we will see it in big red writing on this screen. You will not be able to miss it, I promise you. Oops, press the wrong button. You'll not be able to miss it. Confirm change. And there we have it. Simple as that to allocate unassigned appointments on this manage screen. Now, just two other things I want to show you here on this screen is if you want to, you can choose to group up your roster by either job titles or by regions. We can see once I've done that, I've got my Bath region, I've got my Bridgewater region. And as well, I want to just show you, I know I showed it to you on Amy's profile, but I want to just show you that once we've created those schedules, we can go into the future. I'll go to May 21st, 2029 again. We can see that our schedule has populated our roster, so it's ready to go. I'm not locked into this, so I can still make changes if I need to. Anything at all can still be changed. Not locked into this. And then, should I be making changes in the future again? Same idea, click today, and we are brought right back to today. So, pretty handy stuff there that is going to save you lots of time. And I believe now is probably a good time to have a little discussion about what your staff are seeing, your care team, when they're actually out on the field. So they open up their mobile app. They can see today, the date, the amount of appointments they have, and the total hours worked. Now, they can actually go through the days, but you can set a cap. So maybe you only want them seeing this week or the next 2 or 3 days. Totally up to yourself. They can see all their upcoming appointments with client names, postcodes, phone numbers, appointment start and end time, approximate distance, and travel time. We can tap on an appointment. And as well, we can also see a training event there if you've got one scheduled. But once we tap on an appointment, we're going to be brought to this next screen. Summary, notebook, info, and contacts. So the summary and the contacts are exactly what it sounds like. Contacts being, next to kin, key holder, anything like that you put into the client profile will be visible there for your carer. And the summary being configurable information, though usually it's going to be things like, the full address, maybe additional phone numbers, entry notes, key safes, things like that. The notebook is where we can see diary entries that have been made visible, as well as previous appointment notes. The info tab is where we're going to download and access that care plan document that we've created. Now, don't panic. I know I said the word download. It's not going onto their phone. It's being downloaded to the mobile app. So we use 256-bit encryption, which is the same encryption standards as online banking. Very secure, very reliable app. Anything that is downloaded is securely stored in the app, not found in their picture gallery files, downloads, anything like that. There's no screenshots or screen recording allowed on the app either. All secure, all reliable. Then we have actually got 3 different methods of how your staff can actually clock into their appointments. And these 3 different methods, you can mix and match. So one method, just to give you an example, one method works great for offline mode and low signal areas. So maybe you've got one client who's in a low signal area, you use one of the devices for them, but then every other client might be in a in the city where there's very high signal, let's say, and your staff can just clock in using the other methods. Now, let me actually explain what these methods are in the first place. The first one, called start stop. Simple as that. Your staff will press start when they start the appointment, and would you believe, when they stop the appointment, they press stop. And both times, it pings their location and the time. You're going to be able to see if your staff are clocking in at the right time and the right place. It'll be visible on the map. You'll also be able to see your client's location on that map too. Or your client's home. They're not there. You don't have a tracking device in them or anything like that. You just pinpoint their address on the map and it'll cross-reference where your carer is, the time, and the client's location that you've set. There's also an NFC tag, which is near field communication. Not sure if you guys know what that is, but if you don't, you've certainly used it before. It's actually the same thing that's in contactless payments, same technology. So near field communication, little tag remains in your client's home, usually, close to the door, maybe on a key rack or something like that. But your staff put their phone on the tag to clock in, put their phone on the tag to clock out, as if they were paying for something with Google Pay or Apple Pay or just, their contactless debit card. Very same idea. And then the final method, that OTP device, is the offline mode one that we recommend. An OTP device is a one-time password device. Little device, maybe around the size of a small pager. It remains in your client's home. Your staff arrive at the property, press a button on the device, which will generate an OTP code, which we can actually see here. That's input into the mobile app. Your staff will work away as normal, do their tasks, medication, notes, etc. And as soon as they're back into signal or Wi-Fi, so even if they're out of signal for 10 hours, 12 hours, whatever the case may be, as soon as they're back into signal, all the notes and tasks and everything syncs back to you in the office, and it clocks them in based on the time that they actually press the button on the OTP device. So if there is low signal areas, we can't guarantee 100% accuracy unless you're using an OTP device. But again, you can mix and match. So one OTP device and then a few NFC tags and a few people using start stop or whatever works for you guys. So those are the three methods anyway. And if we scroll down, we can see our task list. We can tick yes or no on if these tasks have been completed or not. Remember, I said certain tasks might have had alerts trigger if your staff tick no on them. Certain tasks might have had optional or mandatory notes. If it's mandatory, they're not going to be able to go any further in the appointment without completing that note. Medication can be recorded and a note can be left. So maybe when Amy had her paracetamol that time, she felt a little bit sick in her stomach. Your staff can leave that note, which populates into your mark sheets, of course, in your report section for yourself to report upon. But it's also visible to the next carer about to administer paracetamol for Amy. So they'll be able to see, oh, the last time she felt a bit sick, so maybe just, make sure she's having an extra glass of water or just keep an eye on her, kind of thing. And then here is where Charlie actually would have left that note about Amy having that fall that we were talking about that created the diary entry. Now, of course, super, super versatile. So this example is a lockbox that looked like it's been damaged. We can alert a supervisor. We can select a category from, again, your fully customizable list of categories that you've created yourself. And yeah, that will then be visible in both the carer and the client's diary entry section, and also to the next carer who's about to visit this client. Just by clicking on notebook, they'll be able to see this note here. And while I have, kind of talked a bit about security and things like that, just to make one final point on it, when your staff first download the mobile app on their phones, you'll need to send them an authentication code. If I actually show you how easy this is to do, we click onto Charlie here, and I'll go into his settings, and I can choose to authenticate a new device. If I want to send them a text, I can, but I can just, screenshot this or copy paste it into an email or whatever I need to do. If you're using the WhatsApp app on your computer, just copy paste it into that. And then Charlie downloads the app. Charlie will be asked for a company ID, a username, and a setup code. Charlie inputs that information. Charlie then creates his own unique PIN code, a 6-digit PIN code. That's all he has to remember. He doesn't have to remember the rest of this. Then Charlie's been authenticated. Anytime he's logging in from then on, he uses that 6-digit PIN code that he created himself. And should Charlie leave me, should his phone be lost or stolen or anything like that, I can just quickly and easily revoke authentication for that device. Apologies, it seemed like my my headset cut off there again. I don't know what's happening here. I do apologize, but it would appear that I am audible again. So yes, super easy to authenticate this device for Charlie, and then even easier to revoke access. So that is pretty much it. when it comes to the mobile app itself. It's very simple, and we like it that way. We don't want your staff having to, wrestle with a really complicated bit of tech while they're trying to just, provide care. I know especially some carers, you might even be struggling to get them onto smartphones. So we want it to be as easy as possible, as streamlined as possible. Their workflow is log in, click, go between the tabs if needed, start appointment using whichever electronic call monitoring method you're using, complete tasks, complete medication, any notes that need to be left, done. That's it. That's all your care team have to do. So then reports. All of this, of course, all of this information that we're sending out there and we're getting back, it's all reported on. So anything that we might need to see can be seen, essentially. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a few really good important reports. The export appointment data report is a very, very good one. Very customizable and configurable as well. So if you're working alongside any local authorities, they will often be requesting this kind of data. So we can come in here and we can, let's say, add any of these columns to my report that I'd like to see. So let's just say we add in actual start, actual end, actual duration. We can include, UIDs, finance IDs. We can include, tasks, include anything that we would like to see. Run this report. And now, of course, my staff aren't on the ball like your staff are going to be. There's actually no actual start, actual end times here for my staff, of course. But you're going to be able to cross-reference. Let's say your planned start time was 7:30. Your planned end time was 8 o'clock. Let's say your staff got in there at 25 to 8 and left at 5 to 8. You're going to be able to see that as the actual start, actual end, actual duration. This report, of course, we can print, save, and export as a CSV. That's not the only important report, though, of course. We've got lots of different reports. So let's look at the medication administration report, or your MAR sheet, where we can filter by our client names, medication names, dates, outcomes, carers. We can run the report. We'll see all of our clients listed, see the medication names, the recorded time and date, the outcome recorded, the carer who recorded that outcome, and any admin notes that they might have left. So that would have been, the example I gave was when Amy had her paracetamol here. Maybe she felt a little bit dizzy or sick. Your staff leaving that note is then visible here in the admin notes section right here. Email, print, save, or export as a PDF or a CSV. So truly, anything you need to see, whether it be something that's happened out in the field, whether it be something that's happened in the office, whether it be something that's happened in the back end of the system, we can find that. And let me actually show you here. This activity log is quite cool as well. So we can see all the changes that I've actually done on this demonstration so far. So appointment times being moved and created. We should be able to see, yeah, we can see things being deleted as well. So if your administrators said that they did do something or didn't do something, you're going to be able to find that. We can filter by the users and administrators, filter by the actions and types and dates and times. All of that information, any action, as you can see, anything I've done on this demo so far has been logged and reported, and we can export it or print it or save it or email it, whatever we need. And that's pretty much it really for the reports. I mean, obviously there's a lot more reports that we haven't looked at, but they all really, are the same essentially in the process of gathering that report and then what you can action it with. Of course, the data within that report is going to be very, very different. So another one that I like to actually show here would be the call and care monitoring, where we can see, just the actual like percentages and things like that of missed and monitored appointments. The local authorities might be asking for this as well as the CQC. So filter by the dates, run the report. We can see all of our clients listed, see the carers required in this time frame, cancelled appointments, monitored appointments, missed appointment percentages. Now, hopefully, Usually the other way around, of course. You've got 100% monitored appointments, so you're not having to send out P45s in a post like I am. We can see the average duration in percentage, average earliness and lateness, both in terms of minutes. And again, of course, action it however we need. Pretty straightforward stuff here. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move on to the finance. But of course, again, like you expect me to say at this point, the broken record, any questions can be dropped into that Q&A chat. Now, the finance section. This is the part where the any questions will fail me, because if you ask me to do any sort of basic maths here, I'm going to struggle. And even I can understand this section. So if any of you guys are anything like myself, numbers kind of intimidate you slightly, don't worry, you're totally fine. Very, very easy to use this system here. Before I go into, the actual invoices and payments, what I want to just show you first here is the confirm appointments page. So I can choose to, go point by point, bulk confirm appointments if I wish, bulk unconfirm appointments, and so on. But I can also choose to configure this. And the way I've got this set up here, now you're going to have more configurations than I do, but I just have this set up to automatically confirm appointments. You can choose it to automatically confirm appointments. However, maybe you don't want to confirm the appointments if it doesn't have an actual time. So if your staff didn't clock in and clock out, if it was, if your staff are late or the appointment was shorter than the roster time, if the invoice is set to do not invoice or the timesheet is set to do not pay, of course, if the appointment was cancelled, or if it's in relation to a certain series of clients or carers, you can choose that they won't automatically be confirmed. And of course, you'll need to have confirmed appointments before you can actually run your timesheets and your invoices. And when it comes to timesheets and invoices, they are so similar to set up, near identical. We have got invoicing and payments. Let me talk about the invoicing first. So we've got invoice groups. You can create as many groups as you want. This could be if you're if you've got local authority clients and your private clients, and they might be, charged differently. You might have different care services. You might have, multiple funding sources. Anything at all there. You can create as many groups as you need. By the way, if it's only one group, that's totally fine. You don't need to create multiple groups here. But yeah, we can create as many groups as we want and assign clients to a group. Then we fill those groups with rates, where we can put as many rates into a group that we need. So I can give it a name, a description, and add it to whichever invoice group we're talking about and filling up right now. So just as an example here, maybe weekdays daytime rate for our private clients. I can choose if this is going to be fixed cost. Excuse me. I can choose if this is going to be fixed cost or if it's going to be time-based. If it's time-based, we can choose multiple time thresholds. Now, what that means, let's say we've got a 1 hour appointment and we charge £20 for that 1 hour appointment. But maybe when it comes to half an hour, it's not bang in the middle of 10, maybe it's 12. We can have as many of these time thresholds there. And what I've got here, up to half an hour, I charge 12. Beyond half an hour, I charge 20. And we can put as many of them in as we need. Of course, if it's fixed cost, you're not even looking at that. The period. So, is this for any day? Is this a weekday or a weekend? Is this a bank holiday? Maybe you got a specific Sunday and a specific Saturday, right? Is this for the whole day, or do you have a daytime rate or a nighttime rate? Do you guys do happy hour? I don't judge. All of that can be put in there. We can choose if this is going to apply to selected job titles, requirements, and regions. And those final three, job titles, requirements, and regions, all configurable by yourself in the admin section. Those are all things that you create yourself. Then what we do is we click save. That will then be added into this invoice group. We have created as many rates and added them to those invoice groups that we need. When generating invoices, it is as simple as choosing which dates we're talking about and the issue date. Click next. I can choose to maybe only do specific people, or I can choose to maybe do all but specific people. And then I've actually got these invoices generated here. But when we have them generated, excuse me, when they are generated, this system is going to look at the appointments. It'll be able to say, okay, this appointment took place at noon on a Tuesday, and it's going to apply your weekday daytime rate if you've set that up. So then we can see all of our invoices, see the client names, invoice group, start and end date, issue date, hours of care provided, and the cost. Then at the bottom, we can see total number of hours of care provided and the total kitching expected incomings. We can select individuals, or we can bulk select and make bulk actions where we can change the status by marking as paid, unpaid, part paid, sent, or on hold. We can delete, regenerate, email, print, or export via PDF, CSV in the preferred 0 format or in the preferred Sage 50 format. So however you're doing your finances, we're going to be able to help take a large weight off your shoulders. And then let's have a little look at these invoices. So yours will not look identical to mine unless you were to, send me an email and ask me what is the layout of your invoices, because I really like the look out of them. But these are super configurable. Sorry, that's the word I was looking for. Configurable, where we can add in our own different, information points. I can add in maybe custom footers or headers. I know some people might like to add, the company bank details on as a little footer to the invoice. You can choose to have just maybe an invoice summary, like we can see here, just a little brief breakdown, or we can choose to have the full detailed invoice going point by point and appointment by appointment. But up at the very top, we'll see our own company logo and information, which of course can be configured and customized in the admin section. You'll see your own client and invoice information up here at the top left. We can see the invoice summary, like I was saying, a little brief breakdown, rates, durations, and costs. We can add an extra item. So anything at all, give a description and an amount for anything that would not be included in the automation of those rates. Then we can see here extra items. Maybe we took Amy out shopping and she'd forgotten her purse, and my care recovered that bill, or any reason at all, anything you might need to add something on. We can see there I'll put £20 onto that invoice. Or if I had a clumsy staff member who broke one of Amy's plates, we can actually make a deduction there just by putting a little hyphen or a minus sign. Scrolling down again, we can see, like I was saying, the full breakdown of the invoice in detail. Now, you don't have to have all of these specific types of information. Maybe you don't want to include the carer names on the invoices. You just want to go, here's what happened, or here's the time, here's the duration, here's the cost. That's going to be totally up to yourself. And then at the bottom, appointments total, extras total, and the grand total. Now, hopefully that makes sense, because if it does, timesheets are going to be a breeze. It's exactly the same way. We create payment groups, as many groups as we need, assign carers to a group, fill those groups with rates. And of course, there is where we can do those training rates that I was talking about previously as well. I can just create a training group, put maybe a fixed cost rate into that, or if we're doing it hourly or time-based, you can do that as well, of course. And then it'll just show that when you're running a timesheet for a time that actually had a training event on it. So what we can then see is, or what the kind of key difference is, excuse me, would be, one, the absolutely massive difference in that it is money going out instead of coming in, of course. And two is that we can set up travel rates, where I can create as many of these travel rates as I want. By the way, if you don't pay for travel, you don't have to use this. This is just if you do. We can, as you can see here, I've actually got distance, time, and both distance and time combined. So I can select it to be rate X pence per mile. You can see I've got a 20 pence per mile here. I can also choose to pay after X miles. So that means after 10 miles, then I'll start paying for travel. I can also do a time-based, and you'll see here I've got rate X pence per minute of 15 pence per minute, and I won't pay until after 10 minutes. I can also, when using time, I can choose to actually have the appointment rate there as well if I wish. When creating these two, if there was, let's say, in between two appointments, there was a big gap, maybe an hour gap, I can choose that maybe only I'll pay for half an hour of that. So I can choose to treat X amount of time as a break as well when I'm doing this too. Like I said, everything else is going to be exactly the same. We can see all of our timesheets and the information here. We have got the same actions, so we can change the status, delete, regenerate, email, print, or export. And then just to prove to you guys that I'm not lying to you, the timesheets here are identical. Top right is our company logo and information. Top left is the timesheet and care information. Below that, we can see our summary, a little brief breakdown. Below that, we can see our extra items, because unsurprisingly, it was Charlie here who broke the plate, so we can deduct those £5 from him. And then scrolling down, we can see the full breakdown of the month, or yeah, it was the month of work for Charlie. So that was pretty much all I wanted to show you guys here today. What we're going to be doing now is we're going to be getting in touch with you, and we'll be sending you on this recording as well, obviously, because I fully appreciate that it could easily be a little bit over information overload. You know, take a little moment to digest it, maybe have a cup of tea, and speed up my speed up my speech if you think you can handle it. But yes, we will get in touch, and we can maybe follow up and do a one-to-one. We can talk about pricing then as well, because I'll kind of we can get it a bit more personalized for you guys as to, you know, your needs, and we can get you an actual personalized quote. Now this Q&A is still open. If you've got any questions for me, feel free to drop them in. I want to just talk a little bit about the onboarding process as well. So if you decide to come on board, you will get login details after signing up and doing your, you know, doing your e-signature and setting up your direct debit. You will get your login details within 24 hours. Now, that if you're to try and do that at 5 o'clock tonight, then obviously it will likely be Monday. But you know, usually during the week it is 24 hours before you'll get contacted by your account manager. We say between 2 to 4 weeks before you're fully set up, before your system is fully filled in with all your care plans, assessments, you know, all your rostering and everything like that. But like I said, once you get your login details, you'll be able to start populating with your own information, creating client profiles, care profiles, and so on. You will be trained up how to use the system as well, so don't be panicking thinking you've got to remember everything I've said here in crystal clear detail on how to do everything. Don't worry, that's not the case. And we also have totally free unlimited telephone and email support. You ever get stuck up to 11 p.m. Monday to Sunday, give us a call and someone will be there to help. So, guys, I can see no questions have come in. So clearly everything I've said makes crystal clear sense. But yes, what I will do then is I will call it there, and we can all catch up over the next, you know, few days, few weeks, whenever it's suitable for yourselves. Like I said, someone from the team will get in touch with all of you guys individually. Unless there's any questions, I'm going to call it there, and yeah, thank you all for taking the time to attend this showcase today. I really do appreciate it. Have a wonderful weekend. I hope it's as sunny for you guys there as it is for me. Bye now.